Coming up on Virginia Beach Frontline Firefighter, Operations Deputy Chief David Hutchinson brings us the first in a regular Frontline segment. This month's Chiefs Chat details the West Side Department changes. David Stites is back with another SCBA checklist. On BBFD Safety Stand Down, hurricane season is here, and Captain Gary Umflint and Battalion Chief Daryl Funiat cover some important safety tips when handling chainsaws. What do you know about snakes? Maybe you don't want to be close to them. In this month's edition of The Wild Side, Master Firefighter Rory Hoyleman shows us some of the more common snakes we might come across on calls and some quick tips on how to handle them. Do you know what a functional movement screening is? Our BBFD fitness coordinator shows us how this important screening can identify functional limitations and asymmetries to reduce injuries. I'm Master Firefighter Tom Parks. Here's this month's host of Virginia Beach Frontline Firefighter, Master Firefighter Stu Sayer.
Thanks a lot, Tom. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Frontline. Our first segment will be a regular. In this month's Chiefs Chat, Ops Chief Dave Hutchinson will bring us a short message about an important topic which most likely will affect you. Here's Chief Hutchinson and Chiefs Chat.
Good afternoon. Today on Chiefs Chat, we're going to talk a little bit about what we've named the West Side Restructure. To start with, I wanted to give you a little history about how it came about, and came about quickly. To start with, Councilman Wood approached the fire chief. He called a meeting with the fire chief, city manager, various other leaders, the EMS chief, and a couple deputies. And he wanted to do something with Old 7. He wanted to make it a supply depot and a reserve spot for a couple of their ambulances, for EMS's ambulances. It took off from there. We started talking about it at senior staff and decided that if they could move to Old 7, then maybe we could get the entire building at New 7 for us. I had a meeting with Deputy Chief Kiley of EMS. We went from there, and he agreed. It morphed into a lot more. When we started bopping it all out, we decided with decking and some other tools that we could move the ladder from 9 to 10, and then we could move the squad to 7. When 7 became available, it gave us an entire additional bay. It allowed us to have 4 more bunks, offices. It really opened up a lot of space for us. And like I said, at senior staff, we decided then that we could move the squad from 10 to 7. Another move that came subsequent of this, and was going to happen anyway because we didn't want to stack our ladders, where at 2, 7, and 9, we were going to move it to 19, as everyone knows. We had talked about for a long time. With that came problems, though. We were putting a lot of people in a small place. We were going to have to spend some monies to make that happen. And when you look at Deccan, the program that we use to tell us exactly where the best places are to put our apparatus, a lot of it we know intuitively, but this kind of puts it in black and white for us. The difference between 10 and 19 was very, very small. And now that the squad companies were moving out of 10, we could now move the ladder into 10 with no additional work. The bunks were there, the offices, everything was there. It also allowed us, through that meeting that I was telling you about a minute ago at Old Company 7 with the city manager and the other leaders, is that there will be in the near future some money to hopefully work on Company 18, and we will be able to move ladder 16 to 18. But with that, now you've got the ladders in the perfect spot for what we want, which I believe is a positive. An additional thing that this did for us is we can now put an ambulance at 10. We don't have to overfill 19. It gives us room at 9 to, if we're really going to work towards also getting a west side engine, kind of like 1114. It will give us 2 engines on the west side. That's something that we're going to definitely move forward on. And with that would give us, one on the west side and one on the east side, as far as an additional engine that I think would certainly cut down on 11 coming so far west all the time. With bringing the squad to 7, it gives us an additional 4 people initially on a high rise. engine ladder squad showing up almost immediately. We're having a high-rise in-service coming up, and I think it'll work perfectly with the training and working together, working some kinks out. Another thing that it does for us is having the squad at 7 now. They will be able to get into Northampton Boulevard Shore Drive corridor so much quicker than when they were backed up over at Company 10, the Woodstock area. It does put both our squads in the center of the city, and there is a middle section there that is going to be close. But if you look at how they both can respond down the main arteries now, I just think it's an excellent move to have them both where they are. Also, I want to clear up some misconception at Company 9. Yes, we had talked about, myself and Chief Brazel and Chief Kiley had talked about what we could do at 9 if whether the ladder was going to 19 or going to 10. We had talked about could we do some swapping of spaces to help both departments. It was just talk, nothing more than that. Chief Ramsey, Chief Brazel, Captains Gross, I believe, and a couple other representatives from EMS have met, and it's been decided that we're going to stick with the spaces that we have right now, and that's in anticipation again of the other engine coming, the West Side engine, if you will, coming in the near future, and so we're not going to do any changing at this time. Will Filomarino is going to look at, can we do some renovations in our side to make it a little more user-friendly, comfortable for the captains and the firefighters that are there. But I just wanted to get that cleared up that we were looking at it, but we're not now. Chief Cover is very clear on our mission as far as being a safe community and treating the customers right, internal and external. One of the areas that I think is very important and that we all need to get on board with is that we are giving up some space at 3 for an ambulance. We are giving up some space at 10 for an ambulance, and we're assisting with Old 7 to again offer more space for an ambulance. But for the citizens of Virginia Beach, I believe that is the best thing we should do. I know this is impacting us in a lot of different ways. I appreciate everybody's tolerance. Lots of moving parts. We've had multiple meetings, transfers, changes. Again, I know it weighs on everybody. This is a big move for everybody. But I just want to say thanks, and we'll see you next month.
Next up, VBFD Fitness Coordinator Herb West shows us how a functional movement screening can help you avoid injuries on the job.
This month we're going to be talking about the Functional Movement Screen, or the FMS. The FMS is not an agility test, it isn't a fitness test or a sports ability test. It's for screening mobility or stability or asymmetries that could lead to an injury. So it's used by the NFL, it's used by a lot of professional teams in other sports, collegiate athletes use it, the Tucson Fire Department and the LA Fire Department all use the FMS to try to avoid injuries in their athletes. The screen is composed of 7 basic movements and 3 clearing tests. The basic movements are all movements that we could do as a child, but with time we may have lost the ability to do some of them. The clearing tests are simply movements done to see if pain exists. The FMS takes about 10 minutes to do. The results of the screen will help develop a program to improve your mobility, stability, or asymmetries, which will hopefully decrease the chances of injury. When you can't move properly, you tend to compensate, and when you compensate, you have more chance of injury. What we want to show you today are what the 7 screens look like and the 3 compensation tests look like, and hopefully you'll be giving me a call to come in and do the FMS. The first test is the deep squat. Okay? The second test is the hurdle step. Okay. The third test is the inline lunge. The fourth test is shoulder mobility. Okay, now switch. Now we're going to do a clearing test for pain. Raise up. Does that hurt?
No.
All right, down. Other side. Does that hurt?
Nope.
Okay. The fifth screen is the active straight leg raise. The objective of this test is to get the ankle bone past this rod. And down. Raise it up. Good. All right, let it down. All right, raise it up. Let it down. The sixth screen is the trunk stability push-up. All right, push up and down. Do another one. Good. Next, we're going to do a spinal extension clearing test. You're going to push up, keeping your hips in contact with the floor. Do you feel pain?
No.
All right, you can go down. The seventh screening test is a rotary stability test. Extend your arms out, leg out, bring them all the way together, back out, and down. And now we're doing the last clearing test to check for pain. It's called the spinal flexion clearing test. Do you have pain?
No.
So you've seen the functional movement screen, or the FMS, and I hope you'll give me a call and come in and take the screen. See you next time.
As you know, we're in hurricane season, and when storms hit, most likely there is tree damage. Captain Gary Umflett and Battalion Chief Daryl Funiak review some important tips about handling chainsaws.
In this segment, I'd like to talk about the near miss the department experienced involving a chainsaw.
In July of this year, at approximately 2150 hours, a VBFD engine crew responded to the scene of a vehicle accident. A 40-foot tree had fallen onto the vehicle and was blocking the roadway. The occupant of the vehicle had self-extricated and was being evaluated by EMS. The battalion chief and captain discussed having the engine crew remove the tree to allow the record driver access to the vehicle or contacting landscape services. It was decided that the engine crew was to remove the tree. The firefighter was the cutter and the captain was behind him. During the cutting operation, the captain felt something make contact with his left leg and thought it was a branch. The operation was completed and the engine cleared the scene. The following shift during equipment checkoff, the captain noticed a 3-inch tear to his left knee pad on his turnout pants. The tear was consistent with where the contact was made during the previous shift. Now Captain Gary Umflett will review some important safety considerations when using chainsaws.
I'm Captain Gary Umflett from Engine 20B Shift. I'm out here today with Robin Cousins and Herb Mayer. We're going to do a little chainsaw safety. Storm season's coming upon us. We're going to go ahead and show y'all some different cut techniques to help you and be a little bit safer out here in the field when we're working. This segment we're going to talk about approaching the operator from either a supervisor or a puller is what we call them. And a lot of injuries take place by this side of the saw. Just remember, what we're showing you right now is you want to stay away from the right side of the saw or the right side of the operator. And the reason being is all your reactive forces, kick back, push back, pull in, anything that happens, the saw has a tendency to come this way or come out. You always want to look at the operator when you're looking at this chainsaw here that Cuz is holding, is this is the safe zone. I've been teaching this class, all of us, the three of us here, been teaching this class for 20 years. This is where we want to be standing when we're teaching this, because if anything happens to that chainsaw, it'll go off to the right side of you. So if you approach somebody, like Herb would be approaching this, he can see him, and then also if something happens, he gets startled, a kickback. This nose hits that, and then the saw's kicked back, it'll go away from him, okay? And just, if you could remember that single action when you got multiple people on this tree would probably help you out tremendously. Herb, as you know, the fire department industry is accustomed to spotters. But in this particular scenario, you know that this is not what we want to be doing. On a roof, total different scenario. You know, you're up there, we're balancing, you and Cuz, we're all aware of how it is on the roof and everything, and you're on top of a roof ladder. But when we're in this position, we need to emphasize the 10-foot rule. Is that correct? We all agree on that.
Absolutely.
You need to be backed up. You don't need to be touching this guy. And if there's any verbal contact, you can either go down to his left and try to get his vision. You always want to approach this side like we talked about earlier, but he does not need to be spotted. You got to let them know that you're going to get ready to do something. What we teach in the chainsaw safety class is they cut all the limbs and then he backs off like so and gives us the go ahead to pull these limbs. The last thing you want to do is be pulling these limbs and all of a sudden it gets hung up and it throws you on the ground with a running chainsaw. Remember, anytime you come back and you make more than 2 steps, you want to set the chain brake. You want to set the chain brake off, get the good area cleared out, make a good path of retreat. Say this tree moves or something happens, you want to be able to fall back into what they call a safe zone. As far as cutting on the trees, multiple saws. Anytime you go to work on a super large tree, I know this is not it, I'm talking 20, 30 inches in diameter, you want to start at the head of it, work your way back, because everything you do up there decreases the reaction down here. And if you got multiple saws, and say a crew is working on this right here, you want to do a relief cut, and if he wants to, he can do a relief cut down here, and then anything he does or Cuz does doesn't affect each other. So there's nothing wrong with multiple saws. Remember, the person running the chainsaw that has the safety equipment on. Right now, it's just turnout gear. I'm working hard, you know it. We got these guys on board, Chief Funiak and all this. We're trying to get a pair of chaps for every fire truck. Looks good. We'll see how it works out. But the minimum attire or safety equipment on here is either a pair of chaps, if you got them, or your turnout gear. Last but not least, the 10-foot rule. When you're out here working, try to keep that in the back of your mind. Remember, the individual falls over, their natural instinct, or if they trip or something like that, is to squeeze the throttle. What does that do? It revs the chainsaw up. You want to give them plenty of space in reference to that. Try not to get confused with a roof operation versus this right here. There is nothing that we do out here as far as these trees out here in the road when you do your analysis and say, hey, I want to get into this neighborhood and I want to cut a hole through this. It's nobody in a hurry, because when we make the call to EOC, it's going to take anywhere between 2 and 3 hours to get the crews out here from the other departments, and we do have somewhat of an obligation to access control these neighborhoods, and we have the equipment, y'all. We have the equipment to do this work. Just do me a favor, be safe out here, watch yourself 360 degrees, and I'm going to turn this segment over to Chief Funiak.
Thanks, Gary, for the safety review. Now let's cover the official recommendations covered in the report. The minor nature of the emergency that cleared a roadway does not appear to have warranted the need for the engine crew to engage in the cutting operation. Number 2, nighttime cutting operations requires much lighting as possible. Number 3, we want you to always remember to utilize a 10-foot safety perimeter during cutting and removal operations. Number 4, use of turnout pants for all members involved in cutting events is required as a minimum level of PPE for any member who enters that 10-foot safety perimeter. Number 5, the department senior leadership will reinvestigate the need to provide safety chaps, 1 or 2 pair per unit, for use by the cutter and the puller. Number 6, the event will be entered into the national database for near-miss events. Please, if you have any questions or comments on this segment, please contact me. Thanks again.
Now here is another SCBA checklist with David Stites.
Let's talk for a minute about breathing air compressors, more specifically, station compressors, squad trucks, and the like. I get a call once a quarter or so from someone asking about their fresh air certificate for their compressor. I air sample, ship off, receive by email, and send out by inter-office mail their certificates for Grade E NFPA 1500 breathing air with specific instructions to dispose of the old expired certificate and place the new certificate on or near the fill panel of the compressor or in the fill log for all to see. If the certificate is getting lost in the mail, I can always email a copy of the certificate to you. Remember, only breathing systems with a compressor are air sampled because salvage trucks, ladders, or storage-only type vehicles are filled from already certified sites. The fill panel on your Cascade system has black plastic fill knobs on it. If you over-tighten these black plastic fill knobs, they will obviously strip very easily. Simply close the valve seats enough to stop airflow, and that's it. The valve seats behind the black plastic fill knobs are supple and do not require excessive force to stop airflow. Conversely, do not fully open the black plastic knobs until they stop, or you will crush the nylon valve packing washers in the valve stem. If the valve packing washers become crushed, the valve stem will back away from the valve seat, disconnecting the stem from the seat, disabling that fill station. 1, maybe 2 turns open with the black plastic fill knob is all that is required to allow sufficient airflow to the SCBA cylinder during fill procedures, 500 psi per minute. The breathing air compressor will run for 10 to 15 minutes, purge condensation, build air up again, and continue this cycle until the final stage has reached its cutoff pressure, about 6,000 psi. When the compressor purges each 10 to 15 minutes, it is expelling water and oil into a large muffler that needs to be drained once a week unless you choose to leave the valve open with a catch container underneath. If you do not drain this condensate, it will back up into the system and cause costly repairs. Both station compressors and squad trucks have this condensate muffler system, and it must be drained at least weekly. The breathing air compressor should be run constantly for 1 hour per week minimum. Did you catch that? Open a fill knob slightly so the hose doesn't whip around violently. Close the fill chamber door. Turn on the power to the compressor. Leave the door open to the compressor room so it doesn't get too hot inside. And run the compressor for 1 hour minimum. If you do not run your compressor for 1 hour a week, condensation will build up inside the compressor block and drip down into the oil, and the internal O-rings won't get sufficiently lubricated, which means they won't last as long as a lubricated one would, but more importantly, your compressor may not work when you need it to. We just finished putting over $1,000 into a compressor because it was not run for 1 hour a week and the condensation was never drained out of it. If you have any questions as usual, please feel free to contact me.
Have you ever been on a call and encountered a snake? Did you know if it was poisonous or not? Master Firefighter Rory Hoylman from Company 6 will familiarize us with some of the more common snakes we'll come across and give us some quick tips on how to handle them in this month's edition of The Wild Side.
Hi, I'm Master Firefighter Rory Hoylman here at Pet Paradise today. We're going to talk to you about some of the common reptiles you may find on EMS or fire calls. The first snake we're going to talk about today is probably one of the most common ones you can find in people's homes. These are called ball pythons. They're pretty much harmless. I mean, anything with a mouth can bite you, but they're very docile. They're very popular because they're very inexpensive. But as you can see, they come in different varieties of colors, what they call morphs. This is a champagne, this is a normal. And this is just another form. This is just another form of a normal, just a little baby. He's less than a year old. And like I said, these are some of the most common ones you'll find just because they're the most popular that are out there now. Another more common snake that you can find in people's homes today are corn snake. Now, these are rather small. They're yearlings or just hatchlings. They just hatched a few months ago. But you can see they come in many different colors and varieties, also known as morphs, like with the balls. They're relatively inexpensive, so that's why they are another more common reptile or snake you'll find in someone's home today. These are what corn snakes look like as adults. This is a Okatee corn, and this is a butter corn. As you can see, the Okatee, they have this nice checker pattern, which is why they get the name corn snake, because back when the settlers came here, they flipped them over and they look like wild corn. So that's hence the name the corn snake. Now this is just a new morph that people have bred out over the years for just to get a different version of the snake, and it's more popular. And the value of them are a little bit higher, the different morphs that you come across. Another more common snake you'll see in people's homes are what they call common red-tailed boas. This one is a normal phase. This is what they look like as babies. And this is an albino in my other hand. So you can see the difference of the two snakes. Okay, as boa constrictors grow, you can see how they change in size dramatically. They can reach up to 10 feet in length and upwards of 50 pounds. So you can see as they get older, they do pose a little bit of a danger to people. But again, mostly harmless. And it's just as they get older, the size of them tends to be more of an issue for one person to handle. But again, very common pet and mostly docile, as you can see. Another more common snake that we have out here is what we call a king snake. The one right here in the lens is an albino, and the one in my right hand is a normal type of cow king. As you can see, the difference in their patterns and their colors, but they are the same snake, just different colors. But again, another more common reason is they're relatively inexpensive and they're readily available, which makes them another type of common snake in people's households. Okay, another type of snake is growing in popularity is this green tree python. They look like they are a little more dangerous than the other snakes I showed you. Not that they are, they do tend to have a little bit more of an attitude, but this is all they really do in a cage is just sit on a branch like this. This one's only about a year old, full grown. They can get about 5 to 6 feet at the most. You won't really find one quite that long, but again, their temperament is a little bit more questionable than the other snakes. Not as common because of the price range. They can go all the way up to $800 a piece. Depends on the color markings on it and the size. And but it is another type of snake that you may encounter in people's homes. Another type of snake, again, this is another type of king snake. We saw the cow kings earlier. Now this is called a Chuckwalla mountain king snake. They're found in the deserts or in Arizona out in the mountains. You might be a little iffy with the color pattern on them because you could see the markings, the banded markings on them, red, white, and black. That old saying is red touches yellow, kill a fellow, red touches black, venom lack. He is a non-venomous reptile. Okay, some safety measures we want to encounter if we walk into a house that's maybe on fire and we have to remove their animals is how are we going to transport these snakes? One, it could be just as easy as taking the tank off their shelf and walking outside. That way the snake stays contained into its enclosure and we don't have to worry about touching it with our hands or getting bit, the safety of the firefighters. Another way we can do it is if they are loose or we have to remove them from the enclosure because they're too big, is simply pick them up. Pillowcases work well, shove them in a pillowcase or a trash can, that works well. And if you feel that you need to, use your structure gloves because those make a great protection for if a snake were to bite you on the hand. It will not puncture your fire structure gloves. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, if we have to remove the snake by hand, a good method to do it is with a bag. Now this is a snake bag, but a pillowcase works even better. Just take the snake, put it down in the bag, and I have a rubber band here. You can just band it up or tie a knot in it, whichever you prefer. It makes an easy way to transport the snake that doesn't phase them, it doesn't hurt them. They can still breathe very good through the bag, and it's a safe way to transport them, and you can hand them back to the owner. Okay, one thing we can do is when we go into these people's homes for normal fire alarm calls or EMS calls, we can ask the people what are in those tanks, in the reptile tanks. And we can encourage them to put a sticker on those tanks that say harmless reptiles, so in the event of an emergency at the house, firefighters will know when they walk in to see a harmless reptile tank. Okay, not to be scared or worried about getting hurt by this reptile that's in the tank if we can encourage them to start labeling their tanks what they are and say if they're harmless or not. Thanks for watching this edition of The Wild Side. Next month we're going to cover more exotic animals that we may encounter in people's homes. If you have any more questions about this segment, feel free to contact me at rhoylman@vbgov.com or at Company 6 on B Shift.
Well, that's all we have for this edition of Virginia Beach Frontline Firefighter. If you have a training segment you or your shift would like to participate in on Frontline, contact Kirk Kellerhalls at the email address on the screen. Don't forget to find us on Facebook and watch us on YouTube. For Virginia Beach Frontline Firefighter, I'm Master Firefighter Stuart Sayer. Stay safe.